everything that you see in the CLI and SDK, communicate with LimaCharlie through the public API that we have. There's the URL, so HTTPS API limacharlie.io. And static Swagger will be kind of the documentation, and that allows you to also interact a little bit through a web app with that particular REST API. Behind the scenes, it's all documented, in our documentation. The REST API uses a JWT which is an authentication token to verify, permissions and all that stuff, and that is available through an API itself that allows you to take your API key and get a JWT that then you can use with the API gateway. So very basic to start with, but installing the API, both the CLI and the SDK is done in the same way. So if you just do a pip install LimaCharlie, that will start installing. There's a couple of components to get going, and that gives you access to both. So very straightforward. Authentication is a slightly interesting story. So as you know, we are very, very multi-tenant. So that means that we wanted to make sure that the CLI and the SDK are easy to use them in a multi-tenant environment. So there's a couple of things that we can talk about. So there's API keys. So usually when we call API keys, we're referring really to kind of machine API keys. Those are organization centric. So you'll create a key, and we'll show you what that looks like in the REST API, in the web interface. You create a key. It is valid for that specific organization with those specific services, permissions rather. Then there's also a user API key. So we recommend that if you don't really need to, that you avoid using those, but those are user-centric. So what that means is, as a user, you have access to multiple organizations. You can create an API key that will have the global set of permissions that you have as a user across all those organizations. So that's a user API key, and that's done from your profile on the web app. So the authentication, very straightforward. So you just go, LimaCharlie login, and you will need to provide the organization ID and the API key, so the key itself. Again, we'll actually step through those when we get to the SDK example to give you an idea. Actually, no, we'll probably step through that pretty early on so that we can demonstrate some of the CLI. It supports multiple environments. So when you do a LimaCharlie login, if you enter an empty environment name or an alias, it will get set as your default environment. So that happens to be used whenever you use either the CLI or the SDK without any credentials. If you don't specify an API key or anything, it will try to access the default environment that you have set up. But you can add more and give them names. And to use one of those environments with the name, it's controlled via an environment variable where you can specify the name of the LimaCharlie environment. And we've made a small shortcut to just emit that environment name with the right variable. So you can do, dot to apply, and then redirect the output of a LimaCharlie use and an environment name. We've gone with that scheme with environment names to be sure that you can have, as a user on the same host, the same user can actually access multiple environments and different shells and different processes. Finally, once that's done, you can do a LimaCharlie who, and what that will do is it will query the public API and will actually list for you, the current API key that you're using, what the permissions are, which organizations is it valid for, the name, kind of all the basic information.